Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kelsey and I'm here today to read some arcs. So I have quite a bit of arcs that came out in both May and are coming out in June. So I decided to just do a reading vlog for you guys and let you know if these books are worth picking up if you value my opinion, which you don't have to. I need to get my netgalley score up. So I thought I would just take you guys along with me. So we have about 4 arcs to read for this vlog, and I'm just going to summarize each one before I read it instead of doing it all now and then repeating it later. So the first book that I will be reading I got from Penguin Canada, and it is For the Adult by Bronwyn Fisher. This seems to be a very interesting story and a coming of age type of novel. So it is an engrossing page-turning story about an introverted student and the mysterious older woman whose unexpected interests in her sparks an insidious, all-consuming love affair. So we seem to be following 18-year-old Natalie, and she's just arrived for her first year in university in Toronto, and she's leaving her remote forested hometown for an unfamiliar city. One day she meets Nora, an older woman who has taken an unexpected interest in her. Natalie is drawn magnetically into Nora's orbit, and she begins to spend more and more of her time off campus at Nora's home. I am about 18% of the way through it, and we have just met Natalie's college friends. We have seen her interacting with other students, with her class about writing and stuff. And when she's in the park one day writing a poem for her poetry class, that is where she meets Nora. And Nora comes to kind of sit down with her in the park and talk to her. It does seem weird because obviously I feel like there's going to be some trigger warnings that I will get into once we start to discover this relationship, especially because the book calls it insidious. But at this point, Nora and Natalie have only met 2 times. They've both been kind of strange interactions. Like I said, there was the moment in the park when Nora comes to sit down with her and talk to her, and Natalie does find it weird. There is some internal reflection where she mentions why Nora would come to sit next to her and talk to her in the park randomly, which I do agree with her. And then we also see Natalie interact with her at a grocery store, and Nora is there looking for some sun-dried tomatoes, and Natalie is there kind of grocery shopping a little bit. And that's the only interaction so far. And at this point, we've only seen Natalie interact with her college friends, going to house parties and stuff like that, and then these interactions with Nora. And I think Natalie is going to discover her sexuality in this book, but I don't think it'll be coming from a healthy place, especially if this relationship with this older woman becomes sort of all-encompassing, all-consuming, that the kind of summary is implying. So that's where I am right now. I just got back from the gym. I did an ab workout today, and then I'm going to continue reading now until we decide, me and my boyfriend, until we decide what we will be doing for supper, and if we're going out tonight. So keep you updated and see you later. Hello. So I wanted to give an update for where I'm at in the book so far. I'm around the 50% page mark, and I wanted to come in here and jump in on a couple of theories that I have. So obviously right now at the 50% mark, you're getting a sense that the relationship between the 2 women is very wrong. It was wrong since the beginning, but now you're starting to see in the ways that Nora is manipulating our main character. Natalie is very insecure. She's constantly asking Nora questions and trying to prove that she is older or more mature than she is. And we're not reminded that she is 18 years old. And I think that the way Bronwyn is flipping the story between her going to school and then her seeing Nora is very intentional to remind us that Natalie is 18. At the same time, Nora is extremely manipulative, extremely insecure as well, constantly making Natalie feel insecure about her decisions to go see her teachers, to go see her parents for Christmas. It's very weird, and I think obviously it's very intentional. We're not supposed to like this relationship between Nora and Natalie, but I'm still very intrigued where we're going. It's a very soft type of story. You feel uncomfortable with the relationship that's developing. That's where I'm at right now. I don't know if I'll update before the end, but I will see you whenever, and I'm excited to see how the rest of the story unfolds. Hello, so I wanted to do a quick update because yesterday I did finish, oh my god, what's the name of this book? The Adult by Bronwyn Fisher. So while I did overall enjoy this book, I ended up giving it a 3.5 stars. I think I enjoyed this book far more in the beginning than I did at the end of the book. The Adult is one of those books that really envelops you in this really beautiful writing style and complex main character. And I really enjoyed reading from Natalie's perspective. She was just starting out college and she's really insecure about who she is, which makes her the ideal main character for a coming of age novel, especially one where someone is discovering their sexuality and who they really are and what they value in life. I also really enjoyed exploring Natalie's different relationships, not the illegal one with the 30-year-old woman, but rather her friendships and her complex relationship with her parents. I really enjoyed that Natalie is trying to learn how to be an adult, and the different Googlings that she does throughout the book, which were kind of funny, were often only delegated towards a male's perspective. And I think it's really interesting that as Natalie is coming of age and wanting to be more adult-like, more mature, the novel is really asking, like, what is an adult? Who is the adult? What is an adult, being an adult, entail? And I thought that that was really interesting and an engaging question, but maybe a little too complex for the overall length of the narrative. As we started to get to the end of the book, I found the twist of the novel to be fairly predictable. And even though I did find it to be an interesting twist and an interesting perhaps discussion and look on the behaviors that these characters were doing, it was just resolved so quickly. I feel like the novel ended so abruptly after that kind of twist showed up. It felt even more abrupt because the novel was such a slow buildup. It took so long to get to this specific point. I feel like I really needed a bit more of Natalie's exploration of feelings per this specific event and her acceptance towards the end and how she's grown into an adult for the novel to have been a bit more successful for me. I still really enjoyed it. I still recommend it. A lot of people have been giving it 5 stars, so don't take my opinion as like the end all be all, because I still did really enjoy it. I just thought there were a couple of things that would have made it more effective for me. So I'm not too engaged with reading on my Kindle right now, and I'm going to be focusing on another book for another vlog, but I will come back with the next arc that I want to read. So we will come back once I have decided what I want to read. So I don't know if when I updated last, but I did decide to start Sparrow by James Hines. This follows a young boy who doesn't have a name, but he grows up, well, he's basically found by a slaver who brings him to a prostitution house, a brothel, where he grows up with different moms, in a sense, who are the different prostitutes of this brothel. Hey, I just wanted to come in here and interject for a second. In the book, they use the term prostitute, so that is the term that I used in this video. But when I was editing this video, I did a little bit of research, and the term sex worker is more preferred. So just know that when I'm using that word, I'm just using the word from the book. But if we're going to talk about this book in a context of today, I would use the term sex worker instead. So I just wanted to come in here and point that out. So thank you. He learns about the world from these women. This is set in a city of England, I believe, that is currently occupied by the Roman Empire. So we are very much into a historical setting. So the atmosphere of the book is really, really engaging. It's really interesting, but particularly because the first like 50 or 60 pages or so, we are following the perspective of the young boy, of Sparrow, and his entire like upbringing in the beginning is within the confines of this brothel, but specifically of the kitchen and the garden, because that is where he's allowed to go. And now we are getting to the point of the book. I'm almost hitting the 100-page mark where he is venturing out. So now we're really seeing the cityscape, the people, and the livelihood of the town around the brothel, and where this child is essentially growing up and learning about the world. It's very, very, very interesting. I love being in the perspective of this child and seeing and understanding the world as he knows it, because obviously I did not live in ancient Roman Empire occupied Britain, so I also don't have an understanding of the world. So I think it's a really interesting perspective and point of view to read from. I'm also really enjoying the characters so far. I think the women who have taken the role of his mothers are very, very interesting women, and they have different ways of raising him. One mom, she believes in giving him hope, inspiring him, teaching him about the world, about animals, about like things that would be outside of his scope of understanding, whereas for Kalia is very much into telling him how it is so that he's not disappointed in the future. So they have very different ways of teaching him. And currently Frakelia is taking him out, showing him how to do things. So laundry, getting water, getting food, and teaching him that he is basically there to assist her and support her, and constantly reminding him that he is a slave and not a person, so that he doesn't grow up with this hope and belief that the other mother is kind of trying to instill in him. I know obviously the house that he's growing up in is a brothel, so it wouldn't surprise me if some of his thoughts and perspectives of the world changes, what with him discovering the occupation of the mothers that he has, and as his knowledge of the world grows and grows. I'm loving this book a lot. Like I said, I think it's really interesting. I think the time frame that the story is taking place in is really interesting. It's obviously not a time frame that I know. The character, the narrative perspective is super interesting. I love the point of view, and I just like the story so far, but I could definitely say it's not plot driven right now. It's definitely slower, and it's definitely a character driven book, and that character being like a 5-year-old child. But I am still really enjoying it. So I think if any of that sounds interesting, you would probably enjoy it too. I will come back and update if I have anything else to say, but that's it for now. Hello, so I just filmed my May wrap up, but I did want to come in here while I look pretty and have the ring light on to kind of update you on where I'm at in Sparrow. So I am about 65 pages in. I had a pretty busy weekend, so I couldn't read as much as I wanted to. Last night, I went to go watch Transformers, the Beast Wars movie. As I slept for Beast Wars, I can honestly tell you that if you're going there for that movie, it's not worth it. Do I think the movie was fun, and was I going in not expecting like an Oscar-nominated drama? Obviously. I still had a great time. I still enjoyed the popcorn, but like, if you're not going in expecting a bad movie, I wouldn't go watch it. Anyways, back to Sparrow. I am now 65% of the way through it. I really expect to be done today or tomorrow, hopefully. This book has taken a long time to get where I am. And it feels a lot longer than where I am. I definitely feel like I've read 1,000 pages because so much happens in this book to this small boy that I don't know. I just feel like I'm reading and all these things are happening, but I'm not advancing any further than I feel like I should. That being said, however, I am really enjoying this book. It's definitely taking a more uncomfortable and disturbing route, but I think it is still bringing forth interesting things to say, and it's still affecting our main character of Sparrow in such a harrowing way. So I wouldn't necessarily say I'm enjoying the book, because I'm not enjoying what's happening to Sparrow, but I am appreciating the depth and the breadth of James Hines's writing and the story that he is putting forth. So I'm really hoping that I could finish that today. I'm definitely going to read more before I edit my May wrap up, because I definitely want that to be posted by Friday. So I'm really hoping that I can get some editing done. But that's it. I will go read and see you later. Hello, so it's been quite a few days since I finished Sparrow, so I wanted to give my review for it because I ended up really enjoying this one, and I would highly recommend, but I have some like caveats that I just want to bring up. So in regards to how I feel about this book, this was an immensely rich and captivating novel, and I think that kind of came through as I was reading the book. Hines does a really great job at setting the characters and setting you as the reader in the world. I felt like I was right there with them, that I was feeling what they were feeling and understanding really what they were going through. Additionally, the characters they all felt like really real and complex, and like I mentioned, when I was reading it, I was rooting for them. I was there with them. Of course, this novel is set in a brothel, so the subject matter is very tricky, especially due to the fact that it takes place in Britain, or what was a Roman-controlled Britain. So a lot of the discussions are that some of them don't believe in Catholicism and Christianity, and the wants of the Christian church are very much implemented into the way that men treat the women in the brothel and the sinner feelings that these women have and are being placed onto them. But I did find that the way Hines tackled it in the novel to be really interesting, especially with Sparrow, our main character, who reverts into a sparrow to watch from above all the traumatic things that he's experiencing. And I feel like that was really well done and really reminiscent of an actual trauma response. Every time we were put into that Sparrow perspective, it really broke my heart because we know that Sparrow is needing to do that in order to survive. I'm very conflicted about how I feel about the end of the novel because it did end on a happier note. I just wish that those final moments where we finally get to see a glimpse of happiness for Sparrow to be explained a bit further or developed in a way. But overall, this was a really gripping read, but extremely uncomfortable. So I would definitely look up trigger warnings before going into this book. It really reminded me of A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. So if you've read that book, the graphicness of that book is pretty reminiscent of Sparrow's. If you were uncomfortable reading that, I wouldn't recommend Sparrow, but if you think that you would be able to handle the subject matter, I really think it is a gripping, complex, and interesting read. So the next arc I'm going to be diving into for this vlog is Psyche and Eros, and this is by Luna McNamara. I've only gotten about 50 pages into the book, so as of right now, I've only met Psyche. A prophecy claims that Psyche, princess of Messenia, will defeat a monster feared even by the gods. Rebelling against her society's expectations for women, Psyche spends her youth mastering blade and bow, preparing to meet her destiny. At the same time, we are also following the perspective of Eros. So when Psyche angers the love goddess Aphrodite, she sends Eros, the god of desire, to deliver a cruel curse. After eons of watching humanity twist his gifts, the last thing Eros wants to do is become involved in the chaos of the mortal world. But when he pricks himself with the arrow intended for Psyche, Eros finds himself doomed to yearn for a woman who will be torn from him the moment their eyes meet. Very interested to see how this story unfolds. I really do like Greek myths. If you've been watching my channel for a while, you know that I am currently reading all of Rick Riordan's backlog on multiple myths, but most of his series follow Greek retellings, and I often do find myself enjoying Greek retellings, and I think I've given myself enough of a buffer between Greek mythology retellings and this book to really enjoy it. So far, I'm really enjoying the writing style of the book, especially now that we're in Eros's chapter. I just find it to be a tad more interesting than Psyche's perspective. Like I said, I'm very early into the book, so I'll probably come and update you when I'm around the 150 page mark, when I read a bit more, and I'll be halfway through the novel, so I feel like I'll have a better understanding of my feelings then. So, see you later. Hello, so I wanted to give a little update. Don't mind my computer screen because I have my review for Psyche and Eros, which I finished last night. I pretty much read it in 2 days. So in regards to like speediness, I would say that this is a really quick read. I went into this expecting to get a historical romance with like feminist themes, and that's exactly what I got. I'm not 100% familiar with the myth of Psyche and Eros, so to talk about whether it's faithful to the original myth, I have no idea, but I have seen a lot of reviews online that say it's not. It didn't bother me, obviously, because I don't know what the original myth was, but perhaps if I did, it would bother me. But in my case, if it wasn't for the mentions of the other Greek gods and like inserting it into a mythos that I am comfortable with, it would just be a very typical historical romance novel. And although this book is in dual perspective, I really enjoyed Eros's perspective a lot more. And I don't know if this is due to the fact that he had more of a like mythos vibe, but I just found the writing in his chapters to be a lot more engaging to read. And I think I would have rather had this whole story told from his perspective, and perhaps I would have found it a bit more romantic to have him tell the story of how Cupid himself finds romance. As for the more feminist themes of the novel, I don't really think they pushed for anything new. Psyche is very much a not like other girls protagonist. Very typical of this type of genre. Like, she prefers to battle monsters over sewing and being a woman of her time. And I think if you've never read something like that before, it could be really refreshing and interesting. But it's something that I've seen a lot, especially within historical romances. So I didn't feel like it was bringing anything fresh. I did, however, find her to be interesting, especially when she was discussing a woman's role in marriage and a woman's role as a leader of a city. But I did overall find the romance in the book to be extremely quick, and I think that it really hindered my overall enjoyment of the book. So I ended up giving this one a 3 stars. I would recommend it if you're looking for something fun, something Greek mythology, but otherwise I would say that this is very typical of the genre. Next, I will be reading On Earth as It Is in Television by Emily Jane, and I have to say I requested this one specifically because of the title. I found it to be so funny and interesting. As for what it is about, it seems to be a first contact story. In Emily Jane's debut, a rock-licking paean to what it means to be alive in the 21st century. The fleeting presence of alien vessels and the certainty that humans are not alone in the universe sparks intense uncertainty as to our place within it. And then it follows a bunch of different characters. So far, I'm about 10% in, and we're really just getting to the beginning of the alien invasion, and we haven't really talked about humanity's place in the world, but I think it could make for really, really interesting discussions if Emily Jane tackles and brings something new and refreshing to this type of questioning of our place in the universe. So I'm going to continue listening to it, and I will update you later, or most probably tomorrow. So see ya. Hello. So I wanted to come here to one, give an update on a book I don't even know if I talked about, and two, to end this vlog that has taken way longer than I wanted it to. I wanted this to be a week. I started this June 1st and it is now June 26th. So you can really establish how this vlog went. So basically I started On Earth as It Is on Television by Emily Jane. This is a book that takes place during, it's not really an alien apocalypse. We soon learn the aliens arrive and then they promptly leave, but obviously everyone's knowledge and understanding of the future and aliens and whatnot has really changed from there, and we look at how it affects these 3 separate perspectives that obviously and eventually come together. So I didn't update on this just because I read this book extremely quickly. If you're looking for something super fun and different, I definitely think you will have a great time with this one, simply for the fact that it is just quick and fun, and it isn't really doing too much. Like I said, the plot is really divided amongst these 3 perspectives as this alien invasion occurs in the United States, and the people of the country learn that aliens have been living amongst us for a while. You don't really see how these 3 perspectives are related until much later in the book, but given that you spend time with each of them individually, I did find them to be interesting in their own way. I think the novel had a really strong opening half, and my interest in the book therefore sort of wavered in the latter half. That being said, though, I was still engaged enough to finish the novel, so it wasn't the worst thing that I have ever read. Something I think was really needing to enjoy this book was some sort of philosophical discussion. The marketing for this book does promise this discussion. It talks about what it means to be a human, what it means to not be the only ones in the universe. But I don't feel like this novel discussed that in a way that was substantial enough for me. I don't really feel like we were doing anything with that. I do think it is sprinkled here and there, but definitely not for what the marketing synopsis made me think this book was going to really go into. It focused more on being uplifting and humorous, and I think if you go in knowing that and go in knowing that it's going to be a humorous take on an alien invasion, I think you could really, really enjoy it. I think I just went in with a slightly higher expectation than I think I even realized, and I ended up giving it a 3 stars. So just as a summary of each of these individual advanced reader copy books that I read that are no longer advanced reader copies, I read The Adult by Bronwyn Fisher, which I ended up giving a 3.5 stars. I then read Sparrow by James Hines, which I gave a 4 stars, definitely my favorite of this vlog. I read Psyche and Eros by Luna McNamara, which I gave a 3 stars, and On Earth as It Is on Television by Emily Jane, which I also gave 3 stars. Sparrow is definitely the winner, but I definitely think it is the hardest one to read. If you want a uplifting coming of age book, I would definitely read The Adult. If you want a fun Greek feminist retelling, I would read Psyche and Eros. And if you just want some fun alien extravaganza, I would read On Earth as It Is on Television. Thank you as always for watching this vlog. Please let me know down below if you've read any of them. Did you like them? Did you hate them? let me know. If you would like to follow me on any of my other social medias, I do leave a link down below to my Twitter, Goodreads, and Instagram if you would like to follow me there. And of course, because it is the end of the video, please do not forget to like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell. It does wonders for my channel. It makes me feel really good. I never know how to end these things, but I will see you next time. Okay, bye.